Yeah, that's right. We saw a quarter point move as widely expected to 4.5%. And it does look as though there could be further interest rate hikes on the cards in the next few months. Goldman Sachs is predicting that UK interest rates could rise to 5% by August. Clearly, inflation, as you mentioned, is sharply above target. And unlike other countries like the US or countries in Europe, it hasn't come down. In the US, inflation is now at 5%. That's less than half where we are. So that suggests that more monetary policy hikes are needed in order to bring down these inflationary pressures.
Yes, and interesting if you look, as we said, the detail from the Bank of England. They said that inflation would fall sharply in April. Yes, probably because some of those factors drop out of the figures. But they've also said it's not as far or as fast as they previously thought. That is the problem. Inflation is really sticky in the UK.
Yes, that's right. And it's partly because of what's known as second round effects, which is where businesses, for example, are faced with higher costs. They need to do something about that in order to preserve their profitability. They might change that into higher prices. And so we see higher prices on our supermarket shelves or in shops or bars or restaurants. And similarly, we have a major labour shortage in the UK. So that means that workers can bid for higher wages. We've seen quite significant wage growth in the UK. Again, that can add to price pressures for businesses, and in turn, that might lead to higher prices. So these second round effects are what risk inflation becoming more entrenched in our economy and lasting for much longer.
And what's so interesting, Victoria, is that none of this is really following the textbook, is it, in the UK? Because we've got the jobs markets still pretty strong, inflation's still really high, interest rates are going up. And we know that these decisions take time to filter through to the real economy, but it's not really happening in the way that many policymakers might expect.
Well, I don't envy the task facing the Bank of England because it's trying to control inflation, which has largely been driven by factors outside of its control, by things that have happened overseas, like problems with the global supply chain post-pandemic, like the war in Ukraine, which sent commodity prices sharply higher, and most recently, difficult weather conditions in Spain and Northern Europe, which have led to food shortages and in turn pushed up food prices on our supermarket shelves. The Bank of England, meanwhile, is dealing with interest rates, which specifically targets mortgage rates and other borrowing products. So this is the stark tool that they have. And unfortunately, it's not the best tool designed to try to tackle the style of inflation that we're dealing with.
Victoria, always good to talk to you. Thank you. Really useful to get that.